I love my sister, but do I love my sister? Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and I love to tell you about independent films that I am excited about. And this one has to be perhaps, I don't know if it's politically incorrect. I mean, some people might look at it that way, but it's definitely John Waters inspired. And as someone who just loved John Waters films as a kid, I probably saw him when I was a little too young, but John Waters has been a favorite of mine for years. And I love comedies that are inspired by potentially offensive humor. Who knows what offends you these days? I feel like people are offended by everything. People are offended by the fact that there are green tea Twix that exists. I believe that that's a thing. Is it green tea Twix or Kit Kat? I don't know. In any case, Call Me Brother is a fantastic comedy, and I'm so excited to have on the director, David Howe, and the writer and lead actress, Christina Parrish, coming in from Austin, Texas. Thank you for joining me on the Film Threat Podcast. This is just, this is awesome.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having us. So exciting.
Thank you.
Glad you like the movie.
I love this film so much. It's like one of those where like the editor of Film Threat, Alan Ng, who looks at every movie that comes in, he messaged me, he goes, dude, have you seen this movie, Call Me Brother? Call Me Brother. And I'm like, no, but I think I need to. He was telling me about it. He goes, dude, watch it. So I watched it immediately, fell in love with this film, and I just feel like a comedy that takes risks, a comedy that not only do you have, like, Christina, you're amazing in the film, but it also, every side character conversation is so weird. Like, I just love it. Like, so I guess my question first for Christina is, like, what inspired this, and then what led you to write some of the most bizarre, awkward, uncomfortable conversations I've ever seen brought to film?
Well, I didn't set out to write an incest movie. I was sort of focusing at the beginning of writing a story about a brother and sister, and then I was like, hey, incest, let's play. It seems like that's like the undertones. And my friend actually was like, this seems like there's incest vibes. I was like, right? And then I just played with that. But I brought the script to David, and it was like 45 pages, and we read through it because we actually lived together throughout that entire time of pre-production, production, and post. And he was like, you gotta extend it. And I was like, okay. And then I just went for it. And yeah, it was a wild ride of like staying up. A lot of the moment staying up super late, going and getting drunk or doing psychedelics and just thinking about the movie. And then these awkward conversations. I thought, it's funny because people call them awkward. I just see them as normal. But
I can vouch for that. Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of the moments in the movie are based on true experiences that I had during the nights of writing and going out and experiencing and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, those conversations, especially with like the parents, there's a real bizarre dysfunction with the parents. I just found that like, that's why I feel like, I know I compared it to John Waters. I hope you're not offended by that.
No,
that's a great comparison. Yeah.
But it's just the sort of like awkward, like, and it's also just like, it's normal in that situation, but being sort of removed as an audience member and watching it. I mean, I personally love that. I like being made to feel uncomfortable. The worst thing is a movie I see, and I see this a lot, is just a movie that just does nothing. It's just sort of milquetoast. It's in the middle. It just sort of, it's just, I've seen this movie 100 times before. I don't know if I can name a movie I've seen that's like Call Me Brother. Like, but the David, like, how, when you were like talking to Christina and you guys were lived together, roommates, what your situation.
Mhm.
How were you like coaching her on some of that? And then what led to you both saying like, let's just make it. Let's just make this movie.
Yeah, well, it's like Christina said, when I first read the script, it was, about 45 pages long. So it was kind of in that no man's land where it's like, this is kind of too long to be a short and it's too short to be a feature. But after reading it, I immediately got sucked into that sort of world. And I think that's the thing that Christina does best. Like you were talking about how the conversations are just kind of a little off kilter. You know what I mean? Like the dialogue, it kind of feels like it's written in its own language in a way. And I think that's what drew me in originally. And Christina and I had done some short comedy shorts before this. And the thing that I loved most about her writing is that I felt like all of these shorts were set in a world that was very much like ours, but just slightly off. You know what I mean? And I think, you can feel that in the movie too, where it doesn't really feel like it's set in any particular time period. It's kind of in its own little dimension. And so that drew me in immediately. And then together, we would just read kind of the drafts that Christina would come up with. I think after that, we came up with the idea of doing flashbacks with the kids when they're younger to kind of flesh out the story, give it some length, and then also kind of explain a little bit why these two weirdos are the way they are, and yeah, it was very, very natural progression of writing. And it was a lot easier because, like you said, we could just be up till 2 a.m. workshopping and smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that. It was a ton of fun.
It was.
Well, I like that Christina and Andrew, your lead, is he on SNL? I haven't really watched SNL this season.
Yeah. He just got added to the cast.
So wow. Okay. All right. I got to catch up on my SNL then, but he's awesome. Two of you, Christina, you and Andrew, like have a palpable chemistry. And what's amazing is the fact that you're playing. I mean, I'm assuming you're both are in your mid 20s, but you're playing like 14 or 15 or something in it. And it works. I'm buying it. It's, I mean, I know you kind of did things to kind of make yourselves look youngish, your clothes and everything. And you're right. There is sort of a timelessness about the period. I kind of thought like, is this set in the 80s or the like 90s somehow? And then it's like, there's cell phones, but they're not. I love the fact that the cell phones are not a big part of the movie.
Right. Yeah. It was funny. Our sound designer actually got us back with a note, and she's like, I don't know if they would have this ringtone because it's in the 90s. And we're like, wait, no. There's like iPads and like Minecraft in this movie. Like, yeah, it's confusing.
How did you get Andrew involved in the film?
Well, I've been in the comedy scene for 10 years now, and Andrew, we met through comedy. And I had envisioned a lot of the people in the movie, their characters were kind of written for them, but I never knew who the brother was going to be. And through trial and error, I just asked Andrew, and David and I went to a coffee shop, indie filmmaking, and we went to a coffee shop and we literally just started reading the dialogue together. And I don't know, it wasn't like, mind blowing, like acting, but I was like, no, he has it. And then when it came to set, it was like, oh, this was exactly the right choice. Cause I love that Andrew, the reason why I feel like we have such good chemistry on screen is because we trusted each other so much. Like everyone on set was like very trusting and open-minded because we were doing this really fucking weird story that you almost had to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that was just like, Andrew was phenomenal in his quiet, subtle demeanor and his I don't know. It was just a mixture that really worked so well.
Yeah, he had like a hesitation to his performance that worked really well for his character, I think.
Yeah, and I had, because I was I wrote this and I was acting, and it's my first feature. I had a lot of anxiety behind the scenes, and it was funny. I was talking to someone yesterday where I was saying that I think the anxiety actual of the background noise, like my pure out of character anxiety, played very well and interesting into the character I portrayed's anxiety. Like it was like this weird little mixture.
An anxiety loop, if you will.
Yes.
It worked, but Christina and you and Andrew had like this. I kind of feel like it's you against the world, your two characters against the world that surrounds you, from your parents to these sort of friends that are not the best friends. They're kind of flaky, weird pseudo friends, sort of bullyish, but not in a super harmful, just like weird. And then it's just like the two of you just trying to survive this world. It definitely it definitely has, like, I mean, I don't remember if the movie sort of roots in an exact, stage of life. Is it like junior high or sort of early high school? But it definitely had captured that sort of awkwardness. Can you tell me, like, what age were the characters supposed to be in the film, or around thereabouts?
They're supposed to be around like between like 17, 18, 16, 17, 18 years old. But they were supposed to be a year apart.
The math doesn't like quite add up if you really get to the nitty gritty, but we trust in the audience to not do the math.
Whatever. Did you run up against any sort of issues? And I mean this like from like the festival circuit, or just from, distributors. I mean, obviously it's being distributed. It's coming out to virtual cinemas. I'm told you can go to callmebrother.com, Google Call Me Brother movie, callmebrother.com, and there's virtual screenings that I know eventually coming to VOD and iTunes and all of that. But was there any sort of hesitation at any of these sort of screening levels, festival, distributor, whatever, where people just said, I don't know, incest comedy? There's like 5 of those. We don't need another.
I don't know if that's what they were saying, but yeah.
But what I'm curious because the worst thing is just having, like, I've always sort of had like one foot in, like, I've worked for big companies. I've done shows for like IFC and FX and NBC Universal, but then I prefer to work on an indie level. So I kind of know I know the guidelines. And I even learned once, you brought up before we started recording that used to watch me on G4. And one of the things I learned was I could mispronounce swear words. So I would say that this film director was a total shatheed. And I could say that, but what were some of the, like, did you get notes? Did you get people coming back and just saying, I don't know, incest comedy?
I mean, we didn't. I don't think that anyone straight up was like, this content wise or tonally isn't for us. Because we did get rejected from a lot of festivals. And it was, I mean, that's kind of just the festival racket in general, right? It's just hard to get in unless you know somebody a lot of times. But we would get rejected, and a lot of times they'd be like, this isn't quite what we're looking for. It would always be kind of dancing around it or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, and distribution was tough for a while. We're trying to find somebody who would give this movie a home for a while. And then of course you add into the fact that we're doing that now when it's, in this time of COVID where everything is already kind of out of whack and made it difficult. But I think it was nice. We hooked up with Leomark. They're the people that are distributing this movie for us, and they're doing a great job. And Leomark really, like, and you look at some of the other movies that they've done, like, and you see why they're willing to take a chance on us. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the angle to which we're getting out there, and I hope that it works. I hope that people do enjoy the movie. But I think. I will say one story. When we were at the New York Chain Film Festival, I went to that screening, and there was a pretty full audience.
Ask you about that.
Yeah, and there was this guy who you could just tell, because we've always had walkouts in any of the screenings that we've done. It's not for everybody, right? Like it's like we didn't make this movie for everyone. That's not what we're trying to do. It's a specific kind of person's going to really enjoy this movie. But there's this one guy at the New York screening who's just kind of sitting in the middle of the theater and just sighing really loudly. Like anytime anything remotely incestuous comes up between the two characters, he's just like, and then I forget exactly what he said, but at one point he just like definitely huffed and puffed and left the theater. And for me, whenever that happened, I turned to the guy next to me and we fist bumped and we're like, look, something is working here. And I don't think we want that guy watching this movie anyway. He was disrupting the audience with his size. So it's definitely like a specific kind of person is going to really latch onto this movie. But I think like if you have an open mind and you can get past some of the taboo, I think you'll also find that the movie has a lot of heart. You know, we tried to write it to where, you know, you were saying earlier, they've got all these friends that aren't great friends and they're all kind of perverts and assholes and sexist, you know what I mean? And we wanted to really make it to where you're really rooting for the two of these because they're kind of the most pure characters in the movie and those good-hearted people. You know,
is so pure too, and kind and gentle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they take care of each other. I mean, the screening process for David and David and I always sat next to each other.
Yeah.
Whenever we were screening, because it was just so funny to hear reactions to the certain moments. I mean, and people react so like I don't know if the words like visceral or like just like like disgusted at certain things, like different. Like each screening, I feel like there's always something where David and I look at each other. We're like, what? They got grossed out about that, or like, oh my god, or like that joke hit. Like that was such a small, you know. And I mean, I think for me on the other end of just being in screenings, and I really do miss that being in screenings. Feeling the energy from the audience, especially when it comes to the ending scene. But I did have a lot of people from the beginning. There was 2 people, so not a lot. But then when it began screening, I did have a couple people come up to me and talk to me about their own incestual relationships, whether they had been in a relationship or their brother or sister has been or their cousin has been. And that was a very interesting, like, I opened. And even when we ran the Kickstarter there, I got a message from a lady saying that she hopes that I'm doing this properly because there is true incest love, because she was in a relationship and still is at the time, 4 years ago, for 13 years in a relationship with her brother, and they had 4 kids. And so, I mean,
that's the market we're really trying to target.
That's the market. But, it's just interesting. The film brought so many that kind of introspective, not introspective, but experience. I wow. And then it also disgusted people, made people happy, and then made people cringe. It was my perfect little baby.
I Christina, I agree with you. I really miss the movie theater, and that because I was fortunate enough, a film that I had at South by years ago, they allowed us to do an early screening so we could get feedback. You can feel the energy in the room. You can realize oh wow, I need to cut 10 minutes out of it, and these are the 10 minutes to cut. You feel it, and that energy has just been I've been going to the drive-in every week, and I assume since you're both in Texas, there are drive-ins that are around.
Yeah,
we got a good one here in Austin.
Oh, that's great. But movie theaters are not fully open here on the West Coast. I had to drive to Fullerton of all places to go to a theater, and there were 10 people in there. There's not. I feel like it's the thing that I do feel a little sadness about is that movie theaters may not come back even if there's movies to see, because we've gotten so used to streaming. But on the flip side of that, I think the positive is, with the tentpole Hollywood movies not taking sort of all the oxygen of attention and out of the air, this is where an indie film like Call Me Brother can be nominated for an Oscar. That is a possibility.
That's a pull quote right there.
Yeah, that's a pull quote.
It's a possibility that this film could be in contention for Oscar.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, and not to just get too hypothetical about the world, because who knows at this point, it's changing so rapidly every day. But it definitely feels like the theater experience is kind of affected in a decently permanent way at this point. You know what I mean? And, obviously there's all that news coming out about Disney reorganizing, and they've got all the movies that are keeping the theaters open right now. But it's like, I think that there is a space for movies like this and smaller independent cinema in general. When you start to view the theatrical experience almost like how vinyl is now, you know what I mean? It's like vinyl sales are high, they're up, it's not, most people are going to Spotify or, whatever to get their music. But, for more niche audiences and for niche releases and people that want that tangible experience, I don't think that's going to go away. We've got the Draft House here in Austin. That's a really good model for like a smaller, more independent chain that doesn't have to rely on the, No Time to Die, not being pushed back or whatever. So I agree with you. I really hope that I think that would be good for everybody, honestly, if we kept the Marvel movies on streaming.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Yeah.
I guess like I have been lucky in the sense that, I've seen so many great indie movies because I'm not being distracted by the sort of mainstream stuff that bombards us and again takes all the attention to where you're going to the movies every week, not because like you want to see that thing, but because you have to see the new Marvel movie or whatever, because it fits in whatever. I mean, I think we're good with superhero movies probably for a really long time. I think we're good. Unless Christina writes a superhero movie.
Call me superhero.
Yes, call me superhero. Like, no, just
Call Me Brother is already a superhero movie. It's just the superpower is incest. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Marvel, come on.
But like I do think it's an opportunity for a film like yours to kind of just like get, more attention. Right. Like I think that's a hopeful thing. I'm trying to put a hopeful spin on movie. I miss personally going to the movie theaters myself, but I am loving the drive-in because you can text if you get bored. I bring my own beverages, all types of beverages. You can smell weed kind of just wafting.
Yeah.
I'm like not a weed guy, but I support that. It's like, you should have it. And at the drive-in, I kind of feel like a lot of people they're doing the weed.
They're doing the weed.
That's pure speculation, but yes.
Yeah. I'd much rather the drive-in than having a vape in a theater that I feel like I always have like eyes on me.
Well, yeah, the drive-in, it's cool because you're in kind of your own bubble. So obviously, with you're fine there, but like you can just, I love it. And then you're not going to be disturbed by people sitting, around, but there is that energy. Now, especially festival audiences tend to be very respectful, except for the ones that saw your movie. But most
of them were respectful. Yeah.
Most of them are respectful, except your audience. But I love that. See, I love it even because I find festival audiences, and this is especially true of Sundance, tend to be a little on the elitist side, right? Like I think it was South Park that, the famous thing is like, Sundance. That's where it's a gay cowboy eating pudding. That's like what all the movies are, right? Like, not an exaggeration, but there is sort of an elitism and like we have to take this very seriously, whatever. Then there's the movies that play midnight at the Egyptian on Main Street. And those are my favorite movies like Mope. And I assume, if the programmers had it together, they would have programmed Call Me Brother for sure.
Yeah.
And like we found, and it's different places, different cities have had different reactions. Like we premiered at the Florida Film Festival and they loved it. Yeah. In fact, I think it. Oh, go ahead.
We were literally like kind of like, okay, like Florida Film Festival, just thinking about the kind of people that live in Florida, just kind of retired, a bit older. And we were like, oh God, like, what is this? At least me, I was like, what is this film going to like? How is that going to go? And then it was like a tremendous hit. Like everyone was talking about it, which felt really
right
good.
As we got off the plane, there was a screening that happened right before we got there. We unfortunately didn't get to see the very first one. We saw the second one in the main theater. And whenever we first got to the festival, we had these people run up to us and started quoting the movie. And we were like, all right, this is a trip.
I mean, the Florida Film Festival is like, and also that festival is just genuinely super fun.
Yeah.
Like they like supported their creators and artists like so well.
It blew us out there, I think.
Yeah, such a well-run festival for our first premiere. And that is also where some people did come up to me telling me their incest stories, and I was like, hell yeah, right on, more power to you. I don't know, I'm glad you enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
Well, I have also attended the Florida Film Festival. It is super fun. The staff there is great, but it is also, your movie played, in Florida. I feel like Florida, I feel like the movie could be set in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Especially with like the cast of characters, Christina, outside of the main characters, are just so on the bizarre, which I personally love. Like, I was just like, what is there? You're sort of just trying to survive in crazy town, right? Like,
so I studied acting for a really long time, and I've been in a couple of things briefly, like HBO Leftovers, for literally just arguing with what's his face, Jennifer Aniston's ex-husband, or not? Is it Jennifer Aniston? Anyway, I've done a bit of acting, but the thing is that like I always played side characters or like supporting roles in a lot of the things that I've done outside of my own personal video career, film career, whatever. And what I hated the most is that whenever I would play these roles, and also like I'd be tied with other people who were also playing supporting, it's like there was no moments to gather. Like, you couldn't create a reel out of this, like one line, like you shouldn't add it to that your reel, or it's not even fun. You kind of regret even being there, even when it comes to other people's projects and they write their supporting characters or their auxiliary characters in a boring way. It's like, who the fuck cares? Like, this is not fun. And so my point in writing Call Me Brother and all those auxiliary characters and literally all the characters in the world, I wanted everyone to be able to walk away with being like, okay, I have, not the first thought, but like I have something that I could tie into my reel that shows me a range. And then mainly I can have fun. I want to show up because these are fun. This seems like a fun, like character, like trait to perform. I'm excited about it. I get to be funny because I feel like a lot of the people that I wanted to cast want to be humorous. So it was like, if they all can have funny, weird lines, then that even makes them more interested and engaged to participate or show up.
I think that's also why when we got off the plane in Florida, like people were already quoting it, it's like I feel like each individual character kind of has their own arc in a way. And we were able to kind of, because they're so weird, you want to know more about them. And I feel like we were able to fit all those in a very brief amount of time that kept people's attention, hopefully. But even, like the gas station clerks at the very beginning of the movie. Like, I know Red, who did such a great job when he's trying to get the exact change from Andrew. It's like that little moment is one of my favorite moments. It's like 5 minutes in, and it's like a nothing scene, but just the character is so bizarre and so kind of tinged with his own personality that it really makes those moments memorable, I think. And that's what I love so much about the script in the first place.
Well, that's what made all those side characters just so endearing, is they all had their moments, and then some of them had like threads that ran throughout, so they weren't forgotten. They had like their own sort of mini short films within your film. So, but I don't want people to get the wrong idea about this movie. Yes, it's an incest comedy, but it's not particularly graphic. I mean, I don't know if it's MPAA rated, but it probably would be PG-13 at the worst. Am I wrong? Like there's this sort of awkward moments of Andrew's character sort of glimpsing Christina, your character, with sort of a wanton look, and he kind of, and there's sort of the bathtub scene, which is hysterical, but it's all played completely innocent. It's not, it's not super overt. So I feel like David, and I'm sure you work with Christina on this, like the tone of it is so present, and it's not, it doesn't, I mean, I guess for some, maybe it doesn't cross a line for me, at least, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, potentially.
I feel like it would be a PG-13 movie. I think
were it not for the language, I think
right,
there's,
right.
there's,
you're right, the language.
There's quite a few F-bombs, but yeah, I think, and they also talk about sex a lot more than you actually see anything, right? It's like a bunch of kids that are going through their hormonal phases, right? And when you ask about like kind of the tone there, I think that's something that we wanted to balance, right? I think early on in the script, there were definitely some moments that were more graphically, there were more graphical comedy beats, where in like a sexual way. I'll say that. I won't say exactly what it is, but those as we were kind of like shaping the script and Christina was getting her later drafts done, we kind of realized that those seemed a little out of place, right? And I think it was that balance of, this idea of like lust and hormonal angst of being a young person, but then also balanced by this kind of sense of arrested development that especially Andrew's character has, Tony. It's like we almost all the places we see him are in childlike places, if on the playground or riding a bike or in his bedroom, which is virtually unchanged from when they're kids. After 10 years, she comes back and it's like not a day has passed, right? So it's like, that's kind of, I think, what makes it almost easier to digest for a lot of people is like, we're seeing kind of what happens when two children who are very close suddenly are yanked apart for over 10 years, thrust back together, and then their bodies and their hearts are different, but then they're also still sort of fighting to be in that same position that they were when they were young. So I think like that, not to make it too intellectualized or anything like that, but I think that was a big part of getting the tone right and making it more playful than just like overtly sexual, because we also didn't want it to seem predatory. You know what I mean? That's kind of that's the instinct with incest, is to view it in that way. And we're trying to be like, no, not that this is all right to do legally, but it's like, what's really the problem here? We want the audience to root for these kids at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
And I think definitely playing into that predatory thing, just that's why we decided like having Lisa be the one that had that agency in the relationship. Whereas you see, if you've seen any type of incest, like, movies, I always think of Dogtooth, which is not, the focus is not incest, but it includes incest. But I always think like, oh yeah, men usually run that narrative. And I just think that for Lisa, it was important to show that women also have that agency and that narrative to want to get what they need in that moment. And being so young and not knowing how to control your emotions, I think it was fun to play with her just outright saying it, whereas you could feel that maybe she was holding it in for so long and trusting and not having like a great father relationship. And then, and then finally making the decision, and yeah.
Well, it's I believe it's played innocently and in a healthy way, if you could even say that, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
I guess with the exception of, say, the masturbation scene, that I don't want to, no spoilers. There's a masturbation. With the exception of the masturbation scene, this could be Disney's Escape from Witch Mountain without the superpowers. I don't know if you remember that series of Disney movies, but I always remember, like, because I had a sister growing up, and I remember those movies, Escape from Witch Mountain. I'm thinking like, there's something going on between those two.
Sure.
It's kind of like Disney's Call Me Brother could be the retitling of this.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are you guys?
It's a quintessential family film, is what
it is. A family film. It's very much a family film. Are you working on? You have to be working on something new. I don't know where you find the time in all of our busy schedules, lockdown, but like, you working on something new? Can you tell us about it? Is it too soon?
Yeah. I'm working on something new. I'm working on a feature, another feature. I'm actually wanting to collaborate again with David and Justin and go for it again and make something different. This one it's called Stealing Kitty. It's basically what I've turned it into be is it's a different it's different from Call Me Brother in the way that Call Me Brother was so colorful, aesthetic,
teen comedy.
Comedy. This is more of an adult sort of living through a relationship. It's more psychological thriller now, but playing with dark comedy aspects. It's based off my mother who has passed away, but 6 years ago. But her last night on Alive is still on Facebook, and it's called My Starry Night, and that is the last night and that's when she overdosed. So I talk about like drugs and just the concept of reliving a bunch of experiences over and over again in a psychological thriller way. Yeah.
Yeah. We're workshopping that.
And there's also incest in that one too. Is that
yeah, the daughter has sex with the dead mom ghost.
You heard it here.
That's a great title for the film.
Yeah, that's the subtitle of the movie.
Oh my God. Before we go, I want to remind people, first of all, David, you have a podcast. You should podcast. This is great.
Hell yeah. Appreciate the free advertising. Yeah, it's a Nintendo podcast. Gaming is kind of my other passion. It's called Super Switchheads. You should check it out. It's on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. And we put up new episodes every week. We're putting one up on this day that we're recording in about 15 minutes. So cool. Pretty excited to get the opportunity to plug that, man.
And then Call Me Brother. You can go to callmebrother.com, find out about virtual screenings, and then eventual release on video on demand, iTunes, all those platforms. And at some point, I don't know if I'm breaking news here, we're going to do a watch party for this film.
Hell yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We're going to do a watch party. It'll probably be in 2021 because we're so booked up. But we have to do a watch party because this would be such a fun film to do a watch party for.
I'd love to
sort of make people aware that they need to seek this film out. Wow. I have to thank our sponsor. Go to storyblocks.com/film threat. It's all sorts of resources for creators, independent filmmakers. We love our sponsor. Allows me to be able to talk to filmmakers like yourself. And oh my God, Call Me Brother. Dude, we do this. I will say this. We do this award show every year. I'm going to throw up the little thing on the Chiron if you're watching this. Okay. We do an award show called Award This, and you can go to awardthis.com. If your movie is just the only qualification is you have to be commercially released in this year and then get reviewed on Film Threat. So you've already met that threshold.
Nice.
But we have like a category called WTF, which is like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, how did this last year, the movie that won was a movie called Ouija's, which is like, it's like Gremlins with weed. And I feel like there's a really good chance that your film will be nominated at Award This. It's kind of like a reaction to the Spirit Awards. You know, the Spirit Awards I feel like those are all like all the movies that are nominated at the Spirit Awards are the movies that don't win at the Oscars, right? They're like nominated in a category, but they're definitely not going to win because they're too indie. And then they win at the Spirit Awards. But Award This is really for all those indie films that don't get the recognition that they deserve across all sorts of categories, from horror to sci-fi to comedy. And I'm pretty sure, just because I'm on the nominating committee,
we have an in.
Call Me Brother will receive some nomination and some recognition there. And I hope that, I don't know what next year is going to be, what 2021 is going to be like, but for sure, we are putting on some version of that award show, and I hope you guys will come out for it, or at least be a part of it, because
I'd love to.
Yeah, it's a really, for me, like putting together the list of the best indie films that I've seen in across all sorts of all the categories. Wow, I can't wait. We're doing a watch party. Hopefully,
it's gonna be great.
Hopefully,
and
with this.
We got the date for the virtual screenings too is starting on November 6th.
November 6th.
Yeah, so check it out. If you go to callmebrother.com, we'll have a list of all the different platforms that are available. I think eventually we should be on the Alamo Drafthouse's virtual platform. I think also like a Vimeo on demand during that period as well. So we should have a whole bunch of links up then, and then you can expect a VOD and a Blu-ray later in December.
Nice. Yeah. And then I can't wait to read Christina Parrish's version of Escape from Witch Mountain, the reboot, because it does involve a brother and a sister, and they kind of have weird.
We'll look into
powers, sort of telekinetic abilities. You should. I would just love to see you do a reboot of that, but in your style of writing, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, thank you so much. This was a blast. We're gonna do it again.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Be well.